Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us today for our next interview in the Women in STEM Speaker Series. Each Wednesday through September 30th, we will introduce you to some inspiring female role models who are doing incredible work in a variety of STEM fields. This series is supported by the Association of Science and Technology Centers and If Then through a gender equity grant, which supports projects aimed at increasing the representation of women and gender minorities in STEM. My name is Caitlin Zurcher. I'm with the marketing team at Carnegie Science Center. And today I'm very excited to talk to Dr. Chavonda Jacobs-Young, Administrator of the U.S. Department of Agriculture's Agricultural Research Service. Dr. Jacobs-Young, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Caitlin.
I have a few questions prepared to help get our conversation started, but for folks watching live on Facebook, you can absolutely ask your own questions. Just leave them in the comments and we'll try to answer them later on. So first, to get us started, could you tell us a bit more about the Agricultural Research Service and the work that you do there?
Right, absolutely. So I'm a part of the U.S. Department of Agriculture. I work with the science mission area in USDA. And ARS is a part of that mission area. And so the Agricultural Research Service is the country's federal cadre or portfolio of scientists who work on high priority agricultural issues. And so we have about 8,000 employees, typically around 2,000 PhD scientists, and we operate out of 90 plus locations with 4 locations overseas, one in Argentina, Australia, China, and France. And so we are the country's agricultural scientist.
That's awesome. So as your role as administrator, what does a typical day look like for you?
Well, I would tell you, Caitlin, no 2 days are the same. I tell you, when I just explained to you, so that's just the internal workings of ARS. ARS, in addition to our wonderful workforce, our team, we have almost 100,000 animals in our care. We have $5 billion worth of buildings and facilities. And so that's just the operations internal to ARS. And so when we think about a day for the administrator, part of my job is leading the agency, setting the vision, setting the guidance, really helping to make tough decisions on what directions we're going to go in and how we operate. And then external to the agency, I work with the Secretary of Agriculture. I work with the White House. I work with Congress. And I work with our many, many stakeholders who are very much involved and invested in our science and the outcomes and our solutions. And I also work internationally. So we have science agencies around the world that we also work with to leverage our resources, bring together our strengths, and really try to help solve some of the toughest challenges we face in agriculture. So no 2 days are the same. Today, for example, I've already had a meeting or two, then I'm talking to you. And this afternoon, I have a very exciting opportunity to talk to our many postdocs who are postdoctoral students who are in ARS. So we formed a new network with our postdoctoral students. We typically have somewhere between 300 and 400 postdoc students in the agency across the country. And so today we're bringing them all together, and I get to have a similar conversation with them about the agency and my career. And so I want to encourage them to stay in science. I would hope they would stay with ARS, but if they don't, I would hope that they will be advocates for agriculture wherever they go in their careers. So it's just a crazy, every day is different.
Yeah, well, that sounds, very busy, but very exciting. And I think that's amazing that you have that resource for your postdoctoral students who are part of the organization. Would you be able to share any specific projects that you or your team works on?
So, we work on so much.
Right.
We have about 700 projects in the agency. However, there's some top things I'd love to share with you and the audience today about projects that we're working on, initiatives. We have some of the best minds in agriculture research around the world. And so how do you bring all of those talents and resources together to solve big challenges? And so that's something that we've been focusing on, creating an innovation space, really promoting entrepreneurial spirits. And so how do we let people free enough to be able to discover, to innovate? And so we have one program that is being led out of Cornell University with our scientists who are co-located on the Cornell University campus, called the Breeding Insights Platform. And the Breeding Insights Platform is using all of the advanced tools and techniques to help us find traits and markers and the keys to really solving some of our shortcomings in being able to shorten the timeline from discovery to dissemination. And so looking at plants and some animals and specialty crops, and how do we shorten the time from discovery to market? In the natural resources area, because we don't only work to grow food, we also have to be great stewards of the environment. We have a wonderful partnership, a wonderful public-private partnership with Microsoft and Esri, and a couple of other organizations where we're taking the decades worth of data that we have in ARS, and we're creating some fantastic data-driven tools to help producers and others make data-driven decisions and protect the environment as we move forward. And then we have 6 nutrition centers in ARS, and we study nutritional needs from gestation to the senior citizens, so those of us who are over 50 who want to eat for a higher quality of life. And so we have those 6 nutrition centers where we provide a lot of key data to some of the data-driven tools that many people use but have no idea what the data came from. And so a lot of that data is developed and disseminated by the Agricultural Research Service. It's so much. I just want to say, for the young people that are joining us today, the next time you're in your grocery store in Walmart or Food Lion, I'm going to get in trouble because I don't know what stores are in different cities, but I want you to walk down the aisles, and especially when you start in the produce section, a lot of the varieties that are sold today were developed by the Agricultural Research Service. We're very proud of a lot of those products. A lot of young people won't know what it's like to go to the grocery store and have to wait until something is in season. Even Caitlin, you might be too young to remember those days when we just had to wait. And now we've been able to develop varieties that can grow in longer seasons, that have longer shelf life, that are nutritious and delicious and affordable. And then there are products like lactose-free products, like Lactate, your milk products that were developed in the Agricultural Research Service. Frozen foods, the technology was developed in ARS. So a lot of times, the federal scientists have been busy at work developing a lot of technologies that Americans enjoy. However, they don't know that it was developed in a federal scientific laboratory. And I like my favorite, the apples at McDonald's in the Happy Meal. Yes, I'm a Happy Meal connoisseur. The apple, the technology for the apples in the Happy Meals were developed in the Agricultural Research Service. So now when a kid wants to go to McDonald's and they get a Happy Meal, they can also get a serving of fresh fruit that actually tastes good, looks good, and so that technology was developed in the Agricultural Research Service. So I'm going to stop there. It's such an exciting position for me to be in, and the scientists keep me intrigued all the time with the new discoveries that they have. And so it's an exciting position, and being a federal scientist is an exciting opportunity to be able to support a mission that's so important to feeding people.
Yeah, that's amazing. I'm sure a lot of people don't realize just how much science and technology and research goes into the food that they enjoy every day. So thanks for sharing that. That's really interesting. Could you tell us a bit about your background, what you studied in school, different career positions that you held before where you're at today?
Yes, absolutely. How much time do we have? Just kidding. So I'm from Augusta, Georgia. Most people can listen to me and tell that I'm not from Washington, D.C. I'm from Augusta, Georgia. I did not grow up on a farm, and so that's the first thing. You don't have to have grown up on a farm or be a farmer to help a farmer be able to help feed the world. And so I grew up outside of a military base in Augusta, Georgia. I was always curious about how things work. And so I'm that person, that kid that asked for the chemistry set in like third grade or whatever. So, you know, you with the little microscopes, just really trying to figure out how things work. I always loved math and science. And I was fortunate enough in high school to be in a program. It's called SECME. And I'm going to try to tell you what it is. It's a Southeastern Consortium for Minorities in Engineering. And so it's a high school program. So there were me and a couple of my classmates, a number of my classmates who from the very beginning of high school were being trained for careers in science, in STEM. And so we were very fortunate. We were being prepared for a college education in a STEM related field. And so the courses we took, the cohorts that were built, and it was just very, very important to us. And I will tell you that the program and the turning point for me in that program was going to a field trip at Georgia Tech. So if you're in Georgia and you're going to major in engineering, you go to Georgia Tech. You know, that was kind of the path that I was on, you know, in high school. And we went to Georgia Tech, and we met with graduate students. And there were graduate students who looked like me. I just had no idea. I mean, we had minority graduate students who looked like me in engineering, and they were doing it. They were majoring in STEM fields, and they were being successful. And it was a turning point for me. At that point, I saw what was possible. And so I did. I went back. I finished high school. I applied to Georgia Tech. I got in. And then I got an offer from North Carolina State University, which I was an athlete in high school, through elementary school and high school. So the offer at North Carolina State University would permit me to major in engineering related field and do athletics. So I ended up going to North Carolina State. And I majored in something called pulp and paper science and technology. And my friends still pick on me today because they're always like, what the heck is that? And so it's a chemical engineer related field where you have to know chemical engineering and chemistry. And you bring the two together and you become a pulp and paper science and technologist. And so now it's called paper science and engineering. And I think that's a more fitting title because you have to take all the chemie classes and everything. And so the students would go 5 years and they have both degrees, a pulp and paper science and technology degree and a chemical engineering degree. And so it was a tough major to be a Division I athlete and major in that. It was, let's just say it was character building. And I finished at NC State my undergrad degree, and then I went on to get a master's degree in the same field. And for those of you who don't know what pulp and paper science and technology is, I will tell you that we are experts at taking fibers from wood, from trees, and making products like facial tissue, like bathroom tissue, like disposable diapers, feminine products, money, which has some wood fiber in it. So we're experts in what we call now biomaterials. Back then we didn't have such a fancy name, but we call them now biomaterials. And so those materials have to have different properties. A facial tissue, if you're using it, you don't want it to disintegrate in the process of using it. If it's a bathroom tissue, you need it to disintegrate or you're going to have some problems with your sewage system. So how do you engineer those materials to be able to have the resulting properties that you need at the end? And so it's something that once you find out what it is, it's pretty interesting. And it has really led to a lot of small talk at events in terms of what the heck is pulp and paper science. So I got a master's degree. And then I went on to start my PhD work. And after my PhD, I was an assistant professor at the University of Washington in Seattle. So I've gone from Georgia to North Carolina and now all the way across the country to the Pacific Northwest, to Seattle, Washington, to teach at the University of Washington, to become a faculty member in paper science and engineering. And so I was the only female faculty member on that team, and the only person of color on that team. And so it was really breaking new, I would say, barriers in terms of entry into that department and the team that they had there. So I stayed at the University of Washington about 6 years, and then I came to the other Washington, and that's how I got here. So I came to the Washington, D.C. to work for the USDA, the U.S. Department of Agriculture. to be what's called a national program leader. And so I still was able to follow my love for science. At this point, I was following the love for science by not being in the laboratory, but being able to run programs that gave funding to people who were still in the laboratory. So it was a very exciting job. So I ran programs on bioenergy and bio-based products, on forestry products, non-food, other related products. And so I was able to really make other people's goals and dreams come true in terms of supporting their wonderful, innovative ideas. And so that was a great position. And some days I wonder why I ever left it. I was just such a good job. You know, people loved you. You had lots of money and you could really invest in things that were really, really important. And so it was just a great position. But I went on to what's called a Senior Executive Service Training Program and became a SES, a Senior Executive Service member of the federal government. And so then I went to the White House for just about 2 years to work with the President's Science Advisor, first under President Bush and then under President Obama. So I was in the White House for those, the end of one administration and the very beginning of another administration. And that was also an exciting time. Oh, wow, it was an exciting time in science. And then I came back to the USDA and I still helped stand up something called the Office of the Chief Scientist for USDA, served as its first director. And then I was the acting director of the National Institute of Food and Agriculture, which is about a $1.5 billion agency. I was there for about a year. And then I came to ARS. And so I've been at ARS since 2012. And first as an associate administrator as the number 2. And then I competed for the position of administrator. It was it was a tough decision whether to put my hat in the ring, and I did. And I was selected as administrator. So in the history of the Agricultural Research Service, there's never been a woman. There's never been a person of color. And so I am really hopefully providing that same visual that those graduate students at Georgia Tech provided for me to let other women and people of color know that it's possible. So that was a long answer to your question, but that's how I got here today.
I love it. That's an amazing story. And I love how you connected it back to, that representation and mentorship and showing people from, underrepresented backgrounds in STEM that what they can achieve.
Yes.
And so thank you for sharing your story. Could you talk a bit about, beyond maybe just subject matter and the lessons that you learned, how did your STEM education prepare you for where you are today?
Right. That degree in pulp and paper science or paper science and engineering, while I don't do anything remotely close to that today, while I use paper products, but I don't do anything remotely close to that. What it taught me, in paper science and engineering, I learned the processes, the paper, how do you make paper and how to keep the machine running to make money. When there's a problem, how to backwalk the problem to identify where the issues are. Those are the same exact things I do today. It's not a paper machine, it's an agency, right? So the critical thinking portion of what I've been trained to do has been key, and it's been a transportable skill. It has applied no matter where I've been and how I've operated, to be a critical thinker, to be able to take many ideas and form a complete initiative or a complete effort, to be able to look at a problem and not be destroyed or defeated by it, but try to untangle the pieces to figure out what exactly happened and how do we fix it. And then how do we stop it from happening, prevent it from happening again? And so I still use the same skills I used when I was an 18-year-old working on a paper machine for the first time in my life, trying to figure out what in the world am I supposed to do here? I learned so many skills doing that. And then in the coursework, of course, you have to be a critical thinker to be successful in an engineering program. And so that critical thinking, the stick to it attitude, and just sometimes just learning to step back and look at the machine from afar And so stepping back and looking at your problems from outside on the balcony and then getting back in there and fixing them. So those are the things that I think were important about having a STEM education. Those skills are critical in everything you do. Being a critical thinker and a great questioner. Ask good questions.
Yes, it's very important. I know you talked a bit about how, those graduate students and when you were in high school really inspired you to pursue STEM, but was there a moment or experience that really got you interested in agriculture?
Honestly, I was not very familiar with agriculture before I came to the U.S. Department of Agriculture. Because I was in forestry. Well, forestry is a part of ag, the big A of ag, but I was in the engineering side, and so I wasn't familiar with the workings of agriculture. I will tell you, when I arrived at USDA and I learned about the mission, the mission of the department is something that I could easily rally around. To me, the ability to be able to feed people, to help protect the environment, and really make a difference for a lot of communities. That was something that really it grabbed me. And I've been here now for 18 years. That's how important I think our mission is. We're expecting a population growth of about 10 billion people by 2050. And history has shown us that science and innovation have been the keys to us meeting our challenges in the past, and they are going to be critically important for how we go forward. So I want to be a part of that effort, to help meet the goal of feeding, fueling, and clothing all of those people. And so that's what has kept me here throughout my career. Caitlin, I've had so many great mentors, both men and women, young and old, just a diversity of mentors. And they've been important to me. They still are. They're still some of my mentors that they've retired and tried to leave me, but I don't let them. I call them and check in and talk with them. And they are the ones that give you a lot of sort of the re-energizing, the refueling. Sometimes you need refueling. Sometimes you just kind of like, oh, I am tired. You call them and you remember why you're in it, why it's so important, why the people you lead need you. And so they've just been so amazing. And so I try to do that for so many people. I try to do the same thing for others. I want to pay it forward. That's why I became a AAAS If Then ambassador, because I think it's important for us to proactively work to attract young women to science. I think it is a very worthy effort, and so that's why I was excited to be a part of it. I mentor women in the workforce. I'm a senior executive service member, and so if someone comes to me and they are interested and they need mentoring, of course, within my time allotments, I'm mentoring several women right now who are ascending to the senior executive service. And so we have to do that. We have to advocate for each other. And so I just think it's important. I'm thankful for the teachers in Augusta, Georgia, the ones who did not try to point me in another direction, but pointed me right straight in the headwind of the STEM field. So I never felt discouraged about my abilities in STEM, and it was because of all those teachers who really saw something in myself and a number of my classmates who continue to push us to be better and reach our potential. And so I just think what we do every day to touch these folks, the young folks, and to be a role model. Sometimes, it just takes one effort, and you could change a person's entire trajectory.
Yeah, that's amazing. Speaking of, mentorship and talking to people who are interested in STEM, do you have any advice for those folks who, are interested in pursuing a similar career or area of study?
I do. I think that it is important to be persistent. Yeah, I think persistence is a good word for this. I won't sugarcoat this and say that everything's going to be easy. As my mom would say, if it was easy, everybody would be doing it, right? It's not going to be easy. And I think that it's important to have networks and to have people who have the same sort of aspirations as you do, the same sort of value system that you do, who will be your buddy, who will say, yeah, you can do it. I know today was rough, but get back in there. I think it's becoming easier for women to be in science. There are a number of programs. It's getting better. I shouldn't say it's easy. I would say it's getting better. The support systems are getting better for women in science, but for young women in science, at school, I want you to take those classes. I don't want you to shy away from a class because you think it's too difficult. I want you to take those classes. I want you to get a tutor. I want you to get a mentor. I want you to persist. When things get tough, talk to somebody, but do it. Do it. You can. And once you have your bachelor's degree and your master's and your PhD, no one can ever take it away from you. It's yours, and it will open doors for you. And so I want to encourage young women to be persistent and to find those supportive networks with other people who think like you and who can push you and support you.
I love that advice. Persistence is so, so important, and surrounding yourself with people who can lift you up and help you, mentor you, support you in your career. It's just so important. And you talked about this a bit before when you were talking about representation, but what would you say how important representation is in science?
In science, I think it's critically important. The robustness of our efforts around a big challenge, it benefits from a diversity of perspectives, a diversity of skills and talents. And so I think science is richer when we have that diversity in terms of voices around the table. And that's why I think, diversity and inclusion are critically important to science.
Yeah. I was just looking to see if we have any Facebook comments, but just a reminder, if anybody is watching live, you can absolutely ask a question for Dr. Jacobs-Young here. One thing I was wondering, what would you say that you love about your job?
Wow, so many things. I just love making a difference. I'm one of those people who I don't like to waste time, and I just feel like what we do every day makes a difference. And each time I hear about a new discovery out of one of our laboratories, and I can immediately see the impact it's going to have on agriculture, on consumers, on our quality of life in America. Those are the things that get me very excited, and I love it. I love being able to tell our scientists stories. I love being able to help secure resources for them to continue their work. And so for those folks who are in the laboratory who have a lot of work to do, the one thing you don't want, they shouldn't have to worry about whether they have great facilities, enough funding, et cetera, et cetera. That's our job. And so I love working with all the scientists and all the other ARS team members. It really is a big family, a family of about 8,000 people.
One question from somebody watching live. What would you say are missing or the most anticipated skills that current students should keep in mind if they're looking to work at the USDA or ARS?
So one of the skill sets that's been important in the last couple of years, in science and in agriculture, we have so much data. We have a lot of data. We have data on watersheds going back, I think, 100 years. It's like, so we're not at a lack of data now. In the past, just being able to create the data we were excited because we could create the data. Now we have more data than we know what to do with. And so we need students who understand biological processes and understand computer science. We need students who can come in and help us as we implement advanced tools like artificial intelligence, like machine learning. We just built a super high performance computing scientific network in ARS. It's been 6 years and it's been in place 6 years. And it started off with a sort of a three-pronged approach. And that was building a high performance computing network that could connect the agency, having cloud and physical storage, so having enough storage to store all this data that's being developed. And the third was a cohort of bioinformaticists and other experts who could help us figure out what to do with this data. You know, how do we analyze it and share it and collect, store it and collect. So the hardest part was number 3, finding enough people who were skilled in that area. And so it's a terribly competitive area because everybody's looking for the same student. And so if you're a student out there, you know, having a great science background with the integration of knowing systems, you know, I think you have a bright future. I know we'd be looking for you, you know, because there's so much to gain from tools like artificial intelligence that can take a lot of this data that wasn't created to talk to one another. One was created here, maybe here, but to bring them together and give us the answers to some questions that we've been asking for a long time, some that we didn't know to ask, and then to help us to build decision tools for producers and consumers. And so I think the integration of the computing skills and the advanced system skills with having a good understanding of biological systems is, I think that's a great area to focus on.
Yeah, when you were describing the ARS a little earlier, just talking about how massive the organization is and the reach across the country and the world, I'd imagine there are a lot of different skill sets and career, like, you know, industry experts that you need to call upon in order to get the job done.
Yeah, one of the ones that people don't typically think about is the social science part of it. Because, you know, we have a lot of scientists who are working in the laboratories. The social science is so important as well. So if our scientists develop a new technology, a new methodology, a new technique, and people don't adopt it, you know, that's a problem. And so we have to know more about behavioral economics and why people make the decisions they make. How do we increase adoption rates of some of the techniques that we've invented if it's going to help us move toward a more environmentally friendly process? For example, we think about things, just the 3 of us on the Zoom today, you know, we know all the things we need to do to eat healthy and for me to, you know, I know what I need to do to lose weight. What's going to encourage me to act on that information? And so you need social science. You know, how do we increase technology adoption? And so the social science piece is a huge piece of the agriculture research enterprise. And so it takes lots of different people. And so if somebody's interested in ARS, I want to encourage them to take some time to see our website. We have all types of scientists in the agency.
Yeah. And one other question from Facebook, for students or maybe young professionals who are just getting started in their career, what networking advice do you have for finding those mentors or for growing their career?
So for me, I would tell you that I've been in positions where I was assigned a mentor, you know, so they have a formal mentor process. So I think those work. The mentors that I have, I would say have the longest relationship with are people who I came in contact with and I saw something that I thought, wow, I want to get to know this person better. And I would love to be able to pick this person's brain or have their advice on my career. So the mentors that have been my long-term mentors are people that I came across that I thought were, could be instrumental in helping me really think through some things, giving me advice. For me, I look for tough people because I like people who give me the direct, honest truth. You have to figure out what you value and find people who meet, you know, those criteria. And I would tell you, a lot of my support system are my fellow graduate student my friends from college, you know. So we all went in our separate ways, and we all have our careers in different arenas, but all sort of going through the ascension together. And so it's great to be able to connect with other people, other women who know what I'm going through, and to really be the cheerleaders for each other. You know, we do it for each other. Our careers do this, and we're there no matter if it's the, you know, peak of the valley. We're always there for one another. So I encourage you to reach out. And it's not just women. You know, like I said, I have male mentors too. You know, and they're different mentors for different, you know, different perspectives or different reasons. And so don't limit yourself. But I will tell you, in order to be mentored, you have to be vulnerable. And so I would encourage you, if you don't have a network, you know, look around to see if there's somebody or a couple of people. Now is a great time when most people teleworking or working from home. You got a captive audience to reach out to somebody maybe you haven't talked to in a while, but build that network, because I think it's important. And especially when you get to my level, a lot of people think the leader, you know, your leader needs support too. Your leader needs support too. And so you always have to have a support system, no matter where you are on the ladder. So I encourage you to reach out and find someone that shares your values, and that you feel like you can be open and honest with.
I think that is excellent advice. Thanks for sharing your perspective on that. And I do think that's all the questions that we have right now. Do you have any final words of wisdom or advice for the people watching today?
Well, I want to thank you all for having this series. I think it's so important. And I think the opportunities for people to look at this app, you know, after it's been broadcast today, is also a good opportunity for young people to go in and hear more stories about women in science. And I just appreciate the invitation.
Absolutely. We were so excited to have you. And thank you again for joining us. This was just a great conversation. I learned a ton, and I'm sure our viewers did as well. So thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to give a quick plug for next week's chat. We are talking to Dr. Sandhya Rowe, professor of astrophysics at the University of Pittsburgh, next Wednesday, September 9th at 11 a.m. right here on Facebook Live. More details and our full list of speakers and videos of past speakers are on our website, carnegiesciencecenter.org. Thanks for watching.